And this is choppy on the Hangout, but when you see this thing in action, I mean, it runs smooth in the browser, which is
Yes.
really cool.
Now we got Pac-Man.
So
There's always the challenge of doing anything demo on this.
well, yeah, anything graphically, yeah.
No, but Steve and I have corresponded a little bit. This is something that gives me real excitement about maybe revisiting my old progress ring, because that was dependent on dynamically creating masks, which was computationally expensive, and also could create problems because it involved saving a file and then loading that back as a mask, and depending on how you're scaling for different devices, it could get really screwy. So I'm like Charles, I'm a real newbie to all of this, and I'm sort of still trying to wrap my brain around it. But once I do, I think I'm going to try and revisit it, because seeing what you're doing there and making it progress, backwards and forwards, as simple as running a slider, just makes me really excited.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, Jason, I'm thinking, would you still? I mean, you'd still have to. I mean, it seems like the shader stuff is fairly advanced conversation, right? And I know you've created this library where it's still sort of one line, two line of code, real easy to implement. So what we're talking about, I guess, is really just still abstracting everything, where the library itself would handle all the heavy lifting with shaders, but then to the end user, they would just have a signature that they'd use.
My goal in that would be to leave the syntax unchanged, basically, okay, and to have the backend use shaders instead of dynamic masking. And again, I think there's, Steve can speak to this. I'm sure this can also be computationally expensive, depending on the device you're running on. But, I think there are big advantages to it.
Stephen, have you seen any? It's a good question. So, not all devices are created equal, especially in the Android camp, where the manufacturer might make certain financial concessions based on what their financial objectives are. Have you seen any devices where this just sort of throws up all over itself?
Not this one, but some. There's something. Let me see if high precision isn't guaranteed to exist in the fragment shader, and that can result in some awkward issues where you get these solid seams going down your effect, or because the precision breaks somehow over that seam.
My shader just peed all over itself. Awkward.
Yeah, pretty much. So definitely on some of those older Androids. I have a Zoom that I've been trying things on, and some of them do not do well.
Hey, Stephen.
Yeah.
I got a hard question for you. Maybe it's easy. So far we've been talking entirely about 2D, UV only coordinates.
Right.
But of course, there's UVW. Does the W coordinate ever get used in Corona for anything? Does it ever pass any values in?
Not the... Well, Z doesn't, as far as I know, except when you have...
Well, you said something about...
Perspective correction.
Yes, perspective correction would give you fake Z, basically, or W, texture coordinate. Is that right?
Let me... Sorry, there's all these windows in it.
The reason I'm asking Stephen this question is because... you killed me! The reason I'm asking this question is because one of the things you can use shaders for, which Charles alluded to earlier by accident, is doing lighting. But lighting has no meaning, pretty much, without a Y or without a Z type of coordinate. I mean, it does have some meaning. You can always do a lighting shading, but having all three coordinates really gives you the ability to do lighting.
Yeah. So, can we see this? This is a beautiful picture.
Yes, this is a fine. Okay. Is that me in the middle?
I want this on a T-shirt.
Okay. So if we're seeing things from here, and we have an object in the distance between the screen, essentially, and the background, it'll get projected onto this using similar triangles, it'll basically get shrunk down, all of its coordinates, x, y, z. The thing is, when it does that, because there's a division involved, you can't interpolate it very nicely, because division is a nonlinear operation. And you might have seen this if you've seen a PlayStation game, their texture mapping, where it's kind of swimming all over the place. And what has been done to compensate for that is called perspective correction, where the W, or rather the 1 divided by W, gets interpolated. And if you interpolate that, then you can redivide it and perspective correct correctly by applying that to your coordinates. So when you use what do you call it? The rect, like a display rect, has a path where you can distort it, right? That loads some of that up behind the scenes, so that the distortion renders the texture as you would expect in a perspective type of view. So when that happens, you do have W showing up there, but you never really see it in your code. You see it in the mute.
The reason I ask is because all this is very interesting, being able to use the UV coordinates to calculate the shading for a particular pixel or subpixel. But immediately my mind goes to, I wonder what I could do with the W coordinate, assuming that I get some kind of perspective change that I can feed into that. And then of course, it doesn't seem, I was playing around with the playground, it doesn't seem like you can do the 3-coordinate shader.
No, in that you don't have access to any of that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because where's it going to come from in the example? So
you can get it from, I don't think you can. A Corona text card, it's a Vertex shader input, but I don't know if it gives you the W.
See, that's where I was going. So if you never get the W, you can never do anything interesting with it.
If you look at that chart, there's a variable you can read in the pixel shader that gives you the screen position, the current screen position of the pixel, and it has the W in it, but I haven't tried to do anything interesting with those.
All right. Well, I'm derailing this discussion. I was just wondering if W was ever available to us.
Okay. So I can move on to another example.
Well, I think Sergey was interested in seeing a vertex example. Is that a possibility, or were you not ready to show us that?
I do have one, but I haven't explained them. I don't know.
You could just show it to us.
We could show it, okay?
Yeah, we're almost out of time for today. So go ahead and just show us that.
Just show it.
That'll be a nice primer for next next time.
Okay.
At least coming attractions.
I have a couple of them. I'll show.
Okay. Coming to a theater near you.
That's right.
Jesus.
Vertex. I've got.
Do you want to see just the effect or the code, or?
Let's see the effect first, and then pop the code on the screen.
Yeah, that way we know
It
what we're.
doesn't need to talk to it.
2 of these, I think. This is breaking an image up into multiple images with distortion and proper textures.
Are we supposed to be seeing something?
What do you see now?
Black.
We say blank screen.
Yeah, blank simulator screen.
That's awkward.
Can you show your whole screen?
I can't.
Imagine, if you will.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to see, and I see black screen.
There it is.
See this?
Oh.
Okay.
So you might, yeah. You're gonna have to. You might want to minimize your browser.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.